I was halfway through a guest lecture in Cambridge when my phone buzzed 3 times in my jacket pocket, the vibration code I'd set only for her. When the class ended, I checked the screen. A bank alert, not a message. 3 withdrawals, each just under $10,000. All within an hour dot. It's funny what you remember first. Not anger, not panic, just the click of the classroom door behind you. The way the air feels different when something irreversible has happened. I called her number. No answer. Then a text appeared. Don't make this ugly, David. I've moved out. The accounts are being handled. Please respect my decision. No explanation. No conversation. Just the language of bureaucracy, used as armor. My name is David Keller, 46 years old, professor of political philosophy at a Midwestern university. I had been married to Lauren for 14 years. She was a journalist, quick with words, skeptical, sharper than I ever was. We met at a book launch. She asked the author a question that made the whole room laugh. I was in awe of her for years. Our marriage looked stable from the outside. Small house near campus, wine on Fridays, arguments about grading curves and media bias. I thought we were aligned, 2 rational adults orbiting each other in quiet harmony. Turns out, reason is a poor substitute for intimacy. First signs. The slow drift, the first cracks were intellectual, not emotional. She started saying I was married to my syllabus. I started noticing how often she mentioned her new editor, a man who, she said, challenged her thinking. I told myself that's what writers need, challenge. I told myself our distance was temporary, that I'd make it up to her during my sabbatical in Boston. Instead, I gave her 8 months without supervision. Before I left, she said, "Don't worry about me. I'll find ways to stay busy." I smiled, blind and content, like a man watching the tide come in without realizing he's standing on wet sand. After that bank alert, I called my financial advisor. He said she'd initiated transfers to a new joint account I'd never heard of, her and her editor. The words hung in the air like a verdict. I flew home 2 days later, using points I'd been saving for our anniversary trip. The house was half empty. Her clothes, her laptop, her grandmother's china gone. The bookshelves were reorganized. I remember staring at the gaps between volumes like missing teeth. On the kitchen table, a manila envelope. Inside, divorce papers, a note in her handwriting that said, "We grew in different directions." It felt like a research conclusion. Sterile and conclusive. My first instinct was to write her a letter, to reason with her. But reason had been our downfall. So instead, I did what I do best. I documented. I listed assets, cross-checked every account, contacted a lawyer recommended by a colleague. He was younger than me, looked bored until I handed him the printouts of the transfers. "Fraudulent co-signature," he said. "This isn't just emotional. It's financial misconduct." That word, misconduct, comforted me. It gave the chaos legal grammar. I didn't confront her editor. I didn't write a dramatic op-ed. I built a file, color-coded, indexed, with dates and verified statements. The lawyer said I'd make a good paralegal. I told him I make a living from footnotes. 3 weeks later, she requested a meeting. We met at a cafe halfway between campus and the newspaper office. She looked thinner, happier, like someone finally living inside her own skin. She said, "I didn't mean to hurt you." I said, "You didn't. You just replaced me with someone who uses the same arguments I used to win you." She flinched, not at the insult, but at the accuracy. I asked if the money was gone. She said, "It's complicated." I said, "No, Lauren, it's arithmetic." I handed her the folder with the lawyer's letter. Her eyes moved fast, scanning the details, transfers, signatures, timestamps. "You could have gone public," she said. "I could have, I replied, but I still believe in quiet accountability. We both knew it was over long before the papers were signed. The university granted me an extension on my sabbatical. I stayed in Boston, rented a small apartment near the Charles River, and spent mornings rewriting a course called Ethics of Betrayal. It became oddly therapeutic, turning private wreckage into a lecture outline. Lauren eventually reached a settlement. The money was returned. The editor moved to another city. The newspaper never printed the story, though I'm sure they whispered about it. I stopped following her work. Not out of bitterness, just conservation of attention. Philosophy teaches you that attention is the most moral resource you have. You must spend it wisely. Sometimes I reread my old notes on Aristotle's concept of praotes, mildness, the virtue of measured anger. He said it's not wrong to feel wrath, only to let it rule your actions. That's how I live now. I make coffee at 6, grade papers at 9, and walk along the river before sunset. I'm not healed, but I'm balanced. Every so often, a student asks if I still believe in love. I tell them yes, the kind that can survive evidence, or at least survive the lack of it. The semester I didn't teach was the one that finally taught me how to live inside the truth, quietly, thoroughly, and without footnotes.